His Excellency, Mr. Ahmed Abdallah Mohamed Sambi, President of the Union of Comoros. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده. Excellence, Monsieur le Président,
in the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate,
Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs les chefs d'État et de
Excellencies,
gouvernement,
ladies and gentlemen, heads of government and heads of
honorables
states,
délégués,
majesties,
Mesdames et Messieurs,
honorable delegates, ladies and gentlemen.
je voudrais saisir
I would like to
l'heureuse opportunité
take
qui m'est
this
offerte de
opportunity
m'adresser à cette auguste assemblée
to address this august assembly in order to thank the government and the people of Denmark
pour l'accueil très chaleureux
for the very warm
qui nous est
welcome they
réservé
have
depuis
extended
notre
to us
arrivée dans ce
from
beau pays
our
et pour les
arrival in this
bonnes
beautiful country
dispositions prises
and for the
en
excellent
vue de la
organization
réussite de cet important sommet.
aimed at the success of this very important
L'engagement
summit.
du Royaume de
The
Danemark au
commitment
service
of
de la
the Kingdom
coopération
of Denmark
internationale
at the service of international
pour le
cooperation
développement durable,
for
ainsi
sustainable
que les qualités
development,
humaines
taken together
et le
with the
dévouement
human
personnel de
qualities
cette très haute
and
autorité
the personal
constituent
devotion
des atouts
of
précieux
these very high
qui nous
authorities are
réconfortent
extremely
dans
valuable,
notre espoir de pouvoir parvenir à des
represent
conclusions
valuable evidence that will
au
help us in
cours
our
de la
hope, which is
présente
to be able to
conférence.
arrive at a satisfactory conclusion
Monsieur le
during the
Président,
course of this summit.
Honorable assistance,
Mr. President,
notre planète est en proie
participants, our planet
à une
is
dérive
in the grips
climatique
of
d'une
a
gravité
climatic
exceptionnelle.
drift, which
Ce
is
constat
exceptionally
a
serious, and
déjà
this
été fait
is something
à
that has
Rio
already
de
been established
Janeiro
in
il y a
Rio
17
de
ans.
Janeiro 17 years ago.
Nous devons donc saisir l'opportunité
We must
de
therefore
cette forte
seize
mobilisation
this opportunity, this
témoigne
very strong
d'une volonté
mobilization,
commune
which bears
d'agir
witness
en faveur
to a
d'une
common
planète viable
will to
et
act
plus propre
to
pour faire les compromis nécessaires
move towards a more viable
en
and
vue
cleaner
de parvenir
planet in
à
order
une
to
position
make the necessary
commune
commitments in order to arrive
susceptible de
at a
sauver notre
common
planète.
position which can save our planet.
En effet, tous nos continents,
Indeed,
riches
all of our
ou
continents,
pauvres,
be they rich or
vivent
poor,
sous la
are
menace
currently
constante des effets
living under
néfastes
the
des changements
constant threat
climatiques.
of the deleterious effects of
pays
climate change. Our countries
de la
are suffering.
détérioration de
They're
leurs
suffering
moyens de
from the
subsistance
deterioration of their means of
et de la
subsistence,
dégradation
and
du capital
they're suffering
naturel
from
et
the
d'autres.
degradation of their
Les
natural
petits États
capital.
insulaires
The small
sont tout
island
simplement
states
menacés
are, quite
d'être
frankly,
purement et
threatened
simplement
with being
submergés sous
completely
l'effet
submerged
de l'élévation du niveau
as a
de la
result
mer.
of the
Dans
sea
le
level
cas de mon
rise.
pays,
In the case of my own
l'Union
country,
des Comores,
the Union of
la
Comoros,
montée du niveau marin
the
à
sea level
l'horizon
rise
2025
by
pourrait
2025
entraîner le
could lead
déplacement d'une
to the
grande partie de la
displacement
population
of a very large
ainsi
part of the
que la
population,
destruction de
and could also
certaines
lead
de
to
nos
the destruction of some of
économiques.
our economic infrastructure.
Les raz-de-marée qui se sont
The
produits en
tidal
2008
waves
dans
that
les 4 îles qui composent mon pays, y compris Mayotte, qui
took
est
place in
toujours sous
2008 in the four
administration
islands,
française,
including Mayotte, which is still under
ainsi
French
que les
administration,
pluies
as well as the
diluviennes
torrential
qui se sont abattues
rains
cette année
that have
dans certaines
been witnessed
localités du
this year
pays
in certain parts of the
sont
country
un témoignage de
are
l'ampleur du
clear
phénomène de
evidence
changement
of the
climatique.
extent of this phenomenon of
Les
climate
prévisions
change.
effectuées en 2003
The
montrent que
forecasts
certaines
carried out
localités
in
vont
2003
pâtir de la
show that certain
remontée du
areas
niveau
will
de la
suffer
mer
from
qui
the
pourrait
rise
détruire
of the sea level,
une
which
partie
could well destroy
des édifices
a portion
et entraîner
of
le
the buildings
déplacement
and could
de
lead to
10
the
à
displacement
75%
of from
des
10 to
habitants de
75%
certains villages
of the
et jusqu'à
population of certain
100%
villages
pour
and
certains
up to
d'entre eux.
100% displacement for some of the villages. The very same forecasts indicate that availabilities of water per inhabitant will be reduced as a result of the drying up of 63 rivers out of the 75 rivers surveyed in 1960 in all of the islands. Moreover, we have observed, over the course of the last 30 years, an increase in the average annual temperature of 1 degree Celsius, which has led to an increase in the frequency of occurrence of cyclones since 1987. The impact of this increase are already being felt on the socioeconomic development of the country, with an expansion and increase of malaria and other vector-borne diseases. In addition, if the ocean temperatures were to rise by 1.5 degrees Celsius compared to the norm, as in 1997, there would be impacts which would be potentially extremely serious on the food security and also on tourism, which is one of the sectors where there's economic growth in the country. Thus, the Union of Comoros, an African country, and at the same time a small island developing country, is among those nations which are already feeling the full effect of the deleterious effects of climate change and are paying heavily for this. Now, this is unfair, because what is specifically unfair is that the conclusions from the first national communication on climate change make it appear that the Comoros is in the category of countries for which greenhouse gases are insignificant, whereas absorption by sinks are extremely high. In fact, my country has huge hydroelectric, solar, wind, and geothermal energy resources, huge potential there. Financial and technological support in order to develop these resources is essential in order to make it possible for our country to participate in the global effort which is aimed at mitigation and improving the economic and social well-being of the population of the Comoros. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we are gathered together here to come up with answers for crucial questions. How can we save our planet? Who is responsible for the damage which has been wrought? Who should pay the price? How can we create new solidarity momentum between rich countries and poor countries? Well, one thing is quite clear. We're all in the same boat. Either we will commit ourselves to ensure that the general interest prevails, and thus we would save humanity as a whole, or we will continue to have national interests prevail, and what will happen there is the boat will sink, taking everything with it. We must come up with a historic agreement which must be legally binding, which must be fair, which must be comprehensive and effective with respect to paragraph 9 of Article 3 of the Kyoto Protocol, widening the commitments for greenhouse gases of developed countries starting in 2013, based on the science available. These new commitments must make it possible to maintain the increase of the average temperatures below 1.5 degrees Celsius by reductions of at least 45% by 2020 and at least 80 to 95% by 2050 compared with the 1990.